the 2009 City of Gloversville Mayoral Forum. Tonight's event is being hosted by the Gloversville 2020 group. My name is Tim Tice, and I'm a member of the Gloversville 2020. Just to give you a little history, Gloversville 2020 is a grassroots, non-political citizens group open to all residents. 2020's mission is to raise awareness and promote good public policy in city government and land use planning and overall quality of life issues. 2020 will not be endorsing any one particular candidate, but rather provide this platform to all candidates as an opportunity to reach out to the community and to convey their thoughts, their ideas, their plan, and to answer any questions from the public. Tonight's moderator will be John Major. John will explain the rules of the forum and will present the questions to the candidate. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to John Major.
Before we go over the rules, I need to make a safety announcement. In case there's an emergency, we have exits to my right underneath the balcony there, to my left underneath the balcony over there, and straight out the back door. So in case of emergency, please get up and leave in a nice manner. Here's the way the program is going to work tonight. 2020 had different places around the city of Gloversville where people could submit questions that they wanted the candidates to answer. I picked up the questions earlier today, and you also had time to submit questions as you came into the door, and a few people gave me a few more questions that they would like asked tonight. Just so you know, if I was to ask every single question in a pile here, we would probably be here really late, even to early tomorrow morning. Now, different people asked almost some of the exact same questions. Maybe the wording was a little bit different. And one of the rules that the moderator had was given is that if I thought it was necessary to combine some questions, I could go ahead and do that. So to shorten it up a little bit, I did combine some. So here are the rules that we're going to follow for tonight. I will introduce the candidates in a moment. And then the candidates will have 2 minutes for an opening presentation. We decided on who's going first, second, third, fourth, fifth by pulling out a number out of a hat. After the 2 minutes, I will then start asking questions of all the candidates. And the direction that I will give it is that the same person is never to always go first and second. So I already mentioned to the panel here that when it comes time for the first question, I will ask Tim Hughes the first question. Everyone will have a chance to respond. When the next question comes up, I'll start with Joanne Clear, and we'll work our way down the table with each new question. Each candidate will have as much time as needed to answer the question. Well, hopefully not more than a minute or so. And if some of the candidates do go a little bit long, I will cut them off. Approximately 8:15 is someplace in that time frame. We will close the discussion on the question, and some of the questions probably will not get asked. And at the end, each candidate will have 2 minutes for closing remarks. And what we did at the end is we pulled numbers out of the hat to see who would go first. So what I'm going to do now is introduce the candidates, and then I'll tell you who's going to go first. Right to my left is Tim Hughes. Next to Tim is Joanne Clear. In the middle is Judy Marcoux. Next to Judy is David King. And way over to my left is Dirk Myers. Now here's the way we're going to do our 2-minute presentations. Tim Hughes is going first, Dirk Myers second, David King third, Joanne Clear is fourth, and Judy Marcoux will be fifth. I did tell the candidates when we have about 10 seconds left, I will just say 10 seconds. I will not stop them in the middle of a sentence or in a thought, but I've done a lot of these campaigns, and sometimes it might take people 5, 6, 7 minutes to continue the thought. So if they do go kind of long, I'll have to say, that's it. So our opening comment will be by Tim Hughes.
Gloversville. We got some severe money problems. Probably always have, and we always will. Gloversville's problems are very diverse. There's no one here that created those problems. They've been created in the past. When I took over as mayor, we had a $700,000 deficit. We had another $1 million that we collected and spent. We also had another $300,000 we repaid. We've taken that $2 million and paid it, as well as some other long-term debt that has been paid early. We've turned that into $1.5 million surplus. The future is uncertain, but the thing that is certain, the city needs to grow. Through your downtowns, through your houses, and especially in your borders. We need to create relationships with the town. Consolidation is going to be the way to the future, and we need to consider it early. Thank you.
Our next opening presentation will be by Dirk Myers.
Good evening and welcome. I would also like to thank everybody for coming tonight and thank 2020 for having this forum. Tell you a little about myself. I live at 21 Chestnut Street in the city. I have 4 children and I'm currently a professional executive general manager for Bowtie Cinemas in Schenectady. I've been in management for the last 35 years and that's what I currently do. One of the reasons why I decided to run for mayor, I'm tired. I'm tired of my neighborhood looking like hell. I'm tired of the city looking like hell. And, we have to move forward. I can tell you just right around my house right now, within a 15-house radius, I have 6 vacant, empty houses. That has to change. We need to move forward. We need to strengthen the neighborhoods. Yes, we have money problems, but there are things that we can fix. And it's not going to be the mayor that's going to fix them. It's going to be all of us, that helps fix them. I have my vision. I have my skills. I bring those to the table. I've been a leader, for a long, long time. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. My father was the chief of police of Clinton Township. I literally lived in the village hall, the fire department, and the police department when I was a kid. I understand. I get it. But what we have to do is we have to come together as a city and make the city a better place. And again, as the mayor said, we have money problems. But at the same time, be fiscally responsible, and I think we also need a mayor that's visible, a mayor that's accountable, and a mayor that's out there, a mayor that walks the streets, a mayor that stops by people's houses, a mayor that walks into businesses and says hi, and how's everything going? We need that, and we also have to work with other communities, cities, towns, to strengthen them, our position as a city. And that's all I have for now.
Next, our third candidate will be Nathan King.
Thank you, John, and I'd also like to thank the Gloversville 2020 and those of you that came outside. My name is Nathan King, and I want to be the mayor of Gloversville. I believe we control our own destiny. I believe that Gloversville needs a mayor who's optimistic and outgoing and who relates well to people. Great leaders understand what people want and are able to motivate them to what we need to do for a greater cause as a team. The biggest problem for struggling communities in despair is despair. The residents of our city and those that live nearby have either lost faith or are losing faith that anything positive can change. My goal in being elected mayor is to prove them wrong. Here's how we're going to do that. First of all, I will work as an ambassador for our city to welcome potential investors and make important introductions. I will share the city's long-term vision with people and be the positive leader that this city so much needs and desires. Our downtown must become denser, more people living and working downtown, so the city can seize the opportunities to make it more convenient to live here. Susan Casey, with the work she's done in the apartments, the SD Commons, and more apartments down here are examples of positive change that is happening. There are also great buildings here that have been here for a long time. There are storefronts, there are second and third story apartments that need to be better advertised to the people that don't live directly in the city. We have one of the best transit systems in our region, according to a DOT representative I spoke to recently. I'd like to congratulate Al Schutz, who today celebrates his 5-year anniversary of being our transit director. When I spoke with the DOT representative, he said that he started at the same time that Al did. And during that time, we had about a $400,000 operating expense. Al has got that down to about $200,000 currently. We're also getting a lot of money from state aid and Medicaid and DSS. Secondly, our neighborhoods need to be quieter and more livable. The city needs to get serious about eliminating substandard housing. We must establish guidelines. We must establish guidelines for livable neighborhoods, which include streetscape improvements. The key to attracting people here is to cultivate quiet, safe, and high-quality neighborhoods. In order for Gloversville to find lasting financial stability, we need to first address the quality of lives. Thank you.
Our fourth presentation will be by Joanne Clear.
I'm a little shorter. Here. All right, first, I too would like to thank 2020 for giving us this opportunity to meet together to discuss our city and its future. We all, 5 of us, are applying for the job of mayor. Many of you read my letter when I first announced my candidacy for mayor. It contained an overview of my qualifications and why I was running. Tonight you received a yellow and red palm card with a brief resume. You've read my references in the letters to the editor, and now this is one of my job interviews. I believe my strength lies in my financial and administrative experience, as well as in my community activities. My strong financial background as Commissioner of Finance, as an auditor with the Office of the State Controller, and as a certified public accountant provides me with a thorough understanding of municipal budgeting and accounting. In this, I am uniquely qualified to face the fiscal challenges of our city. My experience as a supervisor of both union and non-union employees, coupled with my knowledge of civil service law, has prepared me for the job of the mayor, who must be able to supervise people under multiple union contracts, as well as numerous non-union personnel and department heads. You have the right to expect that your mayor will be actively involved in the management of Gloversville. I am applying to be your full-time mayor. My involvement in this community as a parent, a volunteer, as a member of various boards and professional organizations has helped to prepare me for the task that lies ahead. My knowledge of past events, how we got to where we are, and my knowledge of current issues, what's happening now, are valuable assets. All these things, plus my desire to work for a better future for Gloversville, add to the package I'm offering you. With that, please ask your questions.
Our last presentation will be by Judy Marcoux.
Hello, thank you for coming, and thank you 2020 for providing the venue for this. Many of you know me as the city historian, and then the deputy city historian. I was born and raised in Gloversville, and when I was offered the opportunity for early retirement, there was only one place I wanted to be, so I came home. I love Gloversville. I loved growing up here, and I love living here. In 1996, I was appointed the city historian, and as historian, I obtained a unique opportunity to see where we've been, and what worked, and what didn't work. I did not make the decision to run for mayor on the spur of the moment. I talked to my family, I talked to my friends, I talked to my relatives, but I also talked to former mayors and gained some insight. I talked to the Johnstown mayor, and she gave me a lot of very good advice. What I want to provide for the city, I want an open government, and I want an open door to the mayor's office. I will be a full-time mayor. I want accountability, ethics, honesty, and integrity in city government. I want to make City Hall work for the citizens and the taxpayers. Thank you.
Again, all the questions are up here. We're starting with Tim Hughes first. The second question, we'll start with Joanne and work our way around. Here's the first question. Consider these 8 topics: balancing the budget, education, housing, job creation, local economy, neighborhood quality of life, downtown, and infrastructure. Select one of these 8 topics that you consider the most important, and also select one of the topics that you consider the least important, and explain why you selected the topics that you did. All right, I'll go over the list one more time. Balancing the budget, education, housing, job creation, local economy, neighborhood quality of life, downtown, and the last one is infrastructure.
You got quite a list. Where would you start? They're all as equally as important as the next one. Your infrastructure covers quite a bit of this. You know, police, fire, water, sewer, a bunch of different things. And to be honest with you, I don't think I could put something more important than the other. They're all important. They're all part of the big picture. You need housing. You need quality housing. You need quality schools. We need to educate our children because they're our future. The downtown is an important piece of the puzzle. Without your downtown, you have nothing else. But with your downtown, it encourages people to come. Your farmers market is a good example of that, the work that the 2020 group has done. And quality of life is always an important issue. It needs improvement. It always does.
Interesting list of options here. As a finance person, I might put balancing the budget first, but we're not going to be able to balance the budget if we don't address the other issues. For instance, if we create housing, if we build new houses, if we find a way of making the affordable home grant come to fruition, we increase our tax base. Increasing our tax base will help with our budget. If we create jobs, we now have people who can afford to live in Gloversville, who can afford to improve their properties, who want to stay here, and who can afford the property taxes that are so high in our city. If we're looking at local quality of life, then we need to deal with our neighborhoods as we start. I think we need to come up with a real definition of what blight is. I think many of us have different views. Is blight someone who does not mow their lawns, or is blight occurring when you've got a porch full of garbage, or is blight when the front porch is pulling away from the house and stones are missing in the foundation? Each one of those goes together. As the mayor did say, you can't separate or isolate them. We have 2 very valuable assets in that list. When we look at infrastructure, we have water and we have sewer. Those are our bargaining chips when we deal with the town of Johnston when we deal with the county. If I were going to rank them, I think housing and job creation are going to be the top two. Housing is currently overseen by our Community Development Agency. We have people like Sue Casey who have refinished apartments or upgraded apartments. We have the SD Commons project, which was done under a subgroup of the Economic Development Corp, if I'm correct. I'm not quite sure which one that is, but each of those is important.
I believe so. I believe that housing and jobs are important, but I believe that we need to do more to attract business to our city. We need to launch an aggressive marketing campaign. We have abundant water, as Joanne said. We have professional and dedicated fire and police departments. We have great schools. We do have affordable housing and affordable apartments. We have a historic, intact downtown. We have a performing arts theater. We have the Fulton County Museum. We also have many things that a business would look at to relocate here. And this is primarily what we need. On the blight issue, we need to promote stricter anti-blight initiatives. We need to empower a code enforcement officer to issue citations and collect fines, bypassing the cumbersome and lengthy court process. It takes entirely too long. The economy, as we know, we're in a slump right now. However, we do have a company that just opened their doors here, and that is a very positive sign. Thank you.
I'll answer the question as it was asked. What's number one most important and what's least important on this list? I'll start with the least important because I think we already have a great education system. Mr. Count was just awarded, he's the Boulevard Elementary School principal. He was just awarded with the National Principal of the Year Award. And I personally know Steve Pavone and a few of the other principals as well, and I think we have outstanding schools. So I'm not sure that any of us here, although I want to collaborate with the schools, I'm not sure that needs as much attention as some of the others. I think the one that needs really the most attention right now is the neighborhoods and quality of life. Some of the houses, some of the areas where some of you may live right now are beautiful areas. Kingsborough, Oakland Ave, First Ave, even where I live in 7th Ave, are nice areas. If you go towards Park Terrace School, the surrounding neighborhoods need a lot of work. There's some beautiful houses, some great people, and unfortunately there's a few houses and people that ruin it for the majority of us. I think the majority of the citizens in Gloversville are great people, want to do good with their community, and we allow the small majority of people to dictate the way that we feel and think. We have to rise above that.
Basically, excuse me, I'm on the same page with Dayton here. You know, I look at neighborhood quality as the number one issue. As neighborhoods go, everything else rolls right behind it. The people that live in those neighborhoods, the jobs that are created, or created from those people who live in those neighborhoods, the kids, that go to the schools, as far as the education goes, and, what happens, how downtown is influenced, by some of the poor quality, neighborhoods that we have. As the neighborhood goes, that's the way the cities are going to go. And that's exactly the way I look at it. Probably I would agree, right now, probably the least thing is job creation. Not to be confused with bringing in new business, but jobs are being created. Right now, there's jobs not necessarily right in Gloversville, but jobs are being created from GE and Schenectady, other parts of Fulton County, Saratoga County. Job creation is probably at the bottom because there's plenty of jobs out there at this particular point in time. But I would have to go with the quality of the neighborhoods as number one. Thank you.
This question will start with Joanne and we'll work our way down. So about 3 questions in one. charter? And if so, have you read it in its entirety? Do you truly believe you can work within its parameters? And if you do not have a copy, are you willing to purchase one and follow it? And Joanne, you're first.
I brought it with me. One of the things I've said is that I would like to form a charter commission. Does that say I can't work within its parameters? It said no. What it says, I think there are things that need to be changed. One of the big things, as you probably know, is that we elect all 6 council people at the same time. And the last election for council, only 2 of the 6 ran for re-election. That's one provision I would like to see, where we run 3 councilmen at one time, 3 at another. Maybe the odd wards in odd years, the even wards in even years. I would like citizens to consider shortening it from 4 years to 2 years. I would also like people to be aware, I know you've been told, or many people have been told, that I want to eliminate police and fire. I would like you to know that under the charter, you are the only people who can eliminate police and fire. The charter says we will have a police department headed by a police chief, and we will have a fire department headed by a fire chief. Yes, I've read the charter, as you can tell. There are a lot of other provisions in there, and I think it's a good document. It needs to be updated. It hasn't been updated since 1990, except by local law. There are some places that I think we need to reconsider. For instance, the original charter was changed by local law to allow people who do not live in the city to be appointed to some of the positions, such as the Commissioner of Finance. The original charter required that the commissioner live in the city of Gloversville. There have been other positions that have been likewise changed. So yes, I believe in the charter, and I read it.
Yes, I have read the charter several times, and I've also read the charter that was initially drawn up for the city. And I agree with Joanne. Times change, and the charter does need to be updated, and I would certainly agree with a charter committee being formed to go over the charter. The functions of the mayor and the council, as per the charter, are work in tandem and pass legislation that will benefit the citizens and taxpayers of the city. And this is what needs to be done. The charter is basically our city constitution. But as I said, and I agree with Joanne, that it does need to be updated.
I didn't bring my city charter with me tonight. I apologize. I have read it. I think we can work within some of it. I do agree with both Joanne and Judy that there are there's room for improvement. One of the things I do disagree with Mrs. Clear on is that I think if we change to a 2-year term for those councilmen, much like the 5 of us tonight, half of their time or a year of their time is going to be spent campaigning. So I think it's very important to have that 4-year term. Again, I think there's options that the people that are here tonight, and hopefully there'll be more people as the next mayor comes along and inspires and motivates people to get involved. I think this turnout's good. I think we can improve upon that. Some of the things I'd like to see happen for our city, like they do for the school board, is vote on some of these things. We've been out, all 5 of us, carrying petitions. Let's continue that to find out where people stand. And if that's something we put into the charter, that's for you to decide.
Yes, I have a copy of the charter. The charter is also available online. I don't have the exact address, but I'd be happy to give it to anybody. And you can also print a hard copy online also. I read it. I agree there should be a charter review. There are things that need to be updated in it. I think the only other thing that we were talking about, council people, I don't believe in 2-year terms either. I think it should be a 4-year term, but I do believe they should be staggered. I think it's at some point in time, don't elect the entire council. the same size, have just about the same, 3 or 4 council people. Thank you.
Over the years, it has been talked about a charter review, and I do believe about a year ago they started down that path. It's going to have to be an extensive review with not just council people, but from members of the public. And it's time, like Mrs. Clear said, it's been since the 90s that the charter was updated. You know, we've got different positions in there, like your city attorney. It's very difficult to get one locally. And different things like that need to be looked at in a realistic way. You know, we may not be able to find somebody in the city that would be interested in the job. You may say there's 100 attorneys in the city, try to find one to take the job. But I agree with the rest of the folks, we need to update that charter and review it. And yes, I have read it, and I do own a copy.
The third question deals with the Gloversville Public Library. It's a short statement, and I have 2 questions that go along with it. The Gloversville Public Library is an important part of our community. It commits itself to the citizens of Gloversville to be a community resource that provides access to information and technology, educational and cultural events, while remaining a center for research and recreational pursuits. Since the library building and the land are owned by the city has a responsibility to maintain the building. If elected mayor, how would you ensure city funding for the library at the level necessary to maintain the physical structure? And question 2, what kind of commitment are you willing to offer the citizens of Gloversville in regards to the library's future? And Judy will start us off with her answer.
I am a voracious reader. I am in the library 2 and 3 times a week. It was a refuge for me when I was a child, and I love the building. City funding, unfortunately, because of the economical situation of the city, we have not been able to fund the library as we have in the past. I would like to see that change. However, until the city can balance its budget without using the contingency fund, and we begin to see some shared revenue with other municipalities, we will just have to do the very best we can. I am committed to keeping this library open. I know a lot of people have said it's a white elephant and we need to close it. That is not a possibility in my mind.
I believe the public library is very important to our city, and I agree with Judy that unfortunately we're not able to contribute financially right now. We can, however, contribute by, again, motivating people and encouraging them to use this free public library. I think what we need to do is address the needs, and speaking with Ms. Madonna, who is currently the public library director, they're getting their needs met from the school districts and other sources. I think once that becomes a bigger need, then perhaps other recreation, as our senior center and other areas that need the funding now, will begin to look at it. If I'm elected mayor, I will encourage people to utilize the public library as, again, I think Ms. Marcoux said it's a jewel, and it's something that I want to see here forever.
I agree, our commitment to the library is important. We need to keep the library. As far as the city maintaining it, we don't have a choice, do we? But what we do have to do is go through the library every year before budget time, as I do with buildings that I manage, and see what we can put in the capital budget for next year. What improvements need to be done? Is it time to fix the roof? Is it time to fix a wall? We have to go through, see what the budget will allow, and see how much we can spend on the library as far as the building, to keep the building physically intact and in good shape. They do have their own tax revenue source, process that you go through every year to look at what actually needs to be repaired and what we can afford to repair, but it's one of those things that we do have to take care of every year.
Up until just a few years ago, the city didn't put very much money at all into the library or any of the other various things in the city like the senior center. I think I'm the first mayor in history to ever stand on the roof with the library director. You have a nice view of the city up there. But back to the library, it is the city's responsibility, and I do feel we need to maintain it to the best of our ability. Unfortunately, with the tough economic times, we're probably doing as well as could be expected. We put $50,000 into roofs, the major repairs we try to do. You know, at the very least, the city can do some in-kind services until the money situation loosens up.
The library, a Carnegie Library is a real gem in our community. I don't know how many of you are aware that the original deed, when the library was given to us, there was a provision that the city would contribute $5,000 annually toward the upkeep of that library. If you factor inflation in there, our contribution should probably be somewhere around $200,000 a year. Back in the 80s, when I was in City Hall, we received what was called federal revenue sharing funding. That funding was used to support that library, and if I recall correctly, we were paying $80,000 a year at that time to fund the library. When federal revenue sharing disappeared, library funding started to diminish. As far as supporting the library, I read for the children's program. I am a member of the Friends of the Library. I'm a borrower or a user of its facilities. Back when I was doing Girl Scouts, I did Girl Scout training in the upstairs reading room. I have attended the programs that are offered up there. I have taken my children to the reading program, and I took my granddaughter until she aged out of the reading program. It's a gem. I thoroughly believe we need to continue it. I wish we could continue it at the level we should be supporting it.
Okay, our next question deals with the Gloversville Senior Citizen Center, and we'll start with Dave. The Gloversville Senior Citizen Center at one time received $30,000 a year in financial support from the city of Gloversville. In recent budgets, this funding has been eliminated, and this year the council voted to approve emergency funds to enable the center to meet its mortgage obligation through December. Given the poor financial health of the city, what do you feel the city should do to enable the Senior Citizen Center to remain open and to continue providing services to its senior citizens?
Thanks, John. I've been at the senior center. I've spoke to Catherine Mueller. I spoke to several of the senior citizens that live there and utilize that center. My grandparents grew up in the city. They worked in some of the skin mills. My father-in-law worked in Delta Tanning that was here. A lot of the senior citizens that utilize that senior center have made Gloversville what it is today. And I think you'd be very negligent and irresponsible to neglect them. What we did this year was decided not to plan ahead, but wait and use contingency funds. And instead of planning a recreation budget ahead of time, we ended up spending $18,000 because people begged for it. That shouldn't be the case. I was at the council meeting when there was probably 60 people, mostly senior citizens, that sat side by side. And they want to know, are we going to get our money, or are we going to need to close the senior center? That shouldn't be the way it needs to be. If I'm elected, I will dedicate money towards the senior center and recreation for all ages. I'm going to collaborate with the schools, with the Boys and Girls Club, or other organizations that represent people in the city. I think it was a shame when we chose the YMCA to send our children outside of the city instead of collaborating with the school when we have good programs here. But back to the question of the senior center. We need to support our seniors for now and generations to come.
I agree with them. We have to support the senior center. As Dayton said, it's a planning process. We need to work with the senior center. They need to bring their budget to the city, see what the city can, what the city can, will, could, maybe contribute. the city. They're the ones that, they deserve, more than, than they actually are getting at this particular point in time. But I think if we plan well, if we work together, it'll all come out good in the end.
Lately, after the senior crisis over there, I've been kicking around some ideas about creating a department for seniors in recreation that may let us qualify for some funding for recreation for everybody, seniors included. I think at some point down the road, the senior center and the recreation should be combined and be run by the city. But I do support the seniors 100%.
Okay, my turn. When I was the executive director of the YWCA, the senior center was downstairs in my building, and we charged them $11,000 a year for rent. When they undertook their fundraising program, and they did an outstanding job raising money to enable them to make the initial purchase of the building they're in, the city was contributing $30,000 a year. Their mortgage payments were structured with the understanding that the city would continue to at least contribute at that level. The cities, with canceling or failing to fund them, has placed them in dire straits. They don't have the money to make their mortgage payments. I think John Castelline, when he requested that they have a budget for next year, that they sit down and the senior center, I don't know if they should, I believe they should be currently meeting right now with city officials and working out how they're going to manage their mortgage payments next year, how they're going to manage their budgets. There are some local organizations that do have some funds available, but I also know the seniors have they had spaghetti suppers, they've had a walk. I know I got a letter from Joan Esper asking me to be a sponsor. There are a lot of things that they've been doing. I also know that Johnstown contributes heftily to their senior center, but we aren't that wealthy. And this year, when they passed the budget, there were no contingency funds in that budget. Zero. That means that the money that has been currently used for the senior center has come out of contracts and agreements. And the question is, whose contract, what agreement are we not funding that we originally thought we would? So there's going to be more fallout as this comes down. Spring has used the senior center every year for its Christmas tree lighting afterward when you go for cocoa and cookies. I don't know what we're going to do if we don't have the use of the senior center. I certainly think the city should contribute, but I realize that the city is not in a position to pay that entire mortgage. But I do think the city can work with the seniors to come up with a plan that will work.
I basically agree with what Joanne said. The Senior Center is a vital organization for our seniors. It gives them a place to go, and they do crafts. And I have been to the Senior Center, and I've talked to seniors, and they just love being there. I think it's a shame that we cannot do more for them, but the city is in dire straits right now, and we just do not have the money to fund as much as we want to fund them. We also have expenses in the city that possibly could have been avoided, lawyers' fees, lawsuits. This money that has been spent could have been used for the Gloversville Senior Center. I don't see right now how much of a commitment the city can make to the seniors, and for that I feel terrible, because they do love their center.
The fifth question deals with city government, and there's a short statement and 2 questions, and we'll start with Dirk. Residents often complain that the lines of communication between city government officials and the citizens are not open, and many issues that should be open to the public settled behind closed doors. What will you do to improve communication and ensure open government? And the second question is, how will you work to change the perception that the offices of mayor and council do not seem to be working together for the benefit of the city? Eric?
As far as that goes, I think that the mayor's office needs to be a very transparent position. Should I be elected mayor, I will be in the office every day. I will be there. I'll probably walk around your street. I'll probably ride my bike around. Anybody can have my phone number. I've been giving out my phone number, my address for like years now. I have the strangest, you never know who stops by my house, right, Judy? But, people stop by, people talk. I have no problem with that. I have a cell phone. You can have the number if I'm mayor. You can call me 24/7, anytime you want to. I will also probably set up evening hours. If City Hall's not available, because I don't want to put any burden upon the city as far as electric or any other costs, we'll find other venues to have it. Also have town hall meetings, and every once in a while, maybe something like have breakfast with the mayor on Saturdays. Everyone can come to the restaurant and we can converse. I'm willing to open and talk about anything. I've been a labor mediator. I've been a labor negotiator. I've worked with unions on mediation and negotiations. That's one of the good things that I do, is I can get two people, that basically hate each other to end up shaking hands in the end. So I think, my ability, my leadership skills, and the things that I've done in the past, with mediation and labor relations, will work good, for that particular position. The perception, hopefully, a visible mayor, an attentive mayor, a mayor that is out there, a mayor that's talking to people, a mayor that is always available for comments, and a mayor that is, available at any time on the office or on the phone, will change the perception. It'll become a positive for the city, that it won't become a negative. And that's what I will do.
Sometimes it's easy for people to complain. Let's be realistic. The office is always open. People are welcome to come in anytime. Set up an appointment. I've made a lot of house calls, and we continue to do that. Business isn't conducted behind closed doors at City Hall. It's as open as it can be. Personnel issues at your council meetings may appear to be behind closed doors, but they're there for a reason. But City Hall is open, my office is open, people are welcome to come there anytime. I have a cell phone, call me on it, call the office, and be glad to meet with you.
Okay. Going back many administrations, I've heard this complaint that the mayor I worked for was not available, the mayor who succeeded her was not available, and some people are having difficulty reaching the current mayor. It depends on what's going on, I believe. If you're looking at what's conducted in executive session of the council, there are three things: personnel issues, contracts, and negotiations may be done in executive session. Any action that is taken must be brought back and done in open session of the council. As far as no open lines of communication, what I'm going to do? Well, I'm going to be a full-time mayor, and I will have office hours. And you will be able to call and schedule an appointment. You will be able to come in. If you want to look, there will be a calendar. I did this when I was Commissioner of Finance. My staff knew where I was if I wasn't in my office. If I was at a meeting somewhere out of the building, they knew. If I was going down the hall to meet with someone, they knew. And that's something I have always done. I did that when I was with YWCA. I've done it in other positions. My staff know. You're not going to get this well. I will give the mayor your message, unless I'm absolutely not there. Any of you who've tried to call me over the years know that it might take me a day or two sometimes to return phone calls. Usually I return your phone call within 24 hours. As far as the mayor and the council not working together, I think that this is a matter of team building. And I think that we need to take and put our differences aside. I think one of the best examples is the Joint Wastewater Sewer Board. You have 3 from Johnstown, 3 from Gloversville. George Bevington says that when that board meets, there are no politics. These people are only interested in what's good for that treatment plant and the citizens of Gloversville and Johnstown. They're not Republicans, they're not Democrats, they're sewer board members. And I think that's the way we need to look at the council. We're not Republicans, we're not Democrats. We are here to serve the people of Gloversville, and we need to work together. Not as Ward 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but as a city council and a mayor.
A few months ago, I attempted to call City Hall. I called the mayor's office. I got an answering machine. I then tried the city attorney. I got an answering machine. I called DPW to see, hey, is City Hall closed? I got an answering machine. One thing I will guarantee you, there will be no answering machines in City Hall if I'm elected mayor, because that really is not the way to do business. We need to restore confidence by having an open and transparent government. I will have an open door policy. I will keep office hours during the day, and for the convenience of working people, I will make appointments in the evening. I will be accessible. At the moment, I don't have a cell phone. I don't have need for one, but if I am elected, I will certainly have a cell phone. And my home phone will be published, and you will not get an answering machine at either place.
I just want to point out tonight that Kaylee Karitis is here from the Leader Herald, and I think we have good reporters with her and Jim McGuire and Paul Ammon for 1340, and I think they do a good job of covering what the majority of the people here tonight read. Unfortunately, there's many, many more people that don't subscribe to one of the newspapers, don't listen to WENT, and those may be some of the people that have that misperception. I do think we can do better. One of the examples I'll use is our website. There's a city, it's called Gilroy, is the name of the city. If you go to cityofgilroy.org, they do a tremendous job of publishing almost everything going on in the community. I don't believe that they're any bigger than us, by 1,000 perhaps. I'll be a full-time mayor as well. I currently work at Walmart Distribution Center. I work Thursday through Sunday. If I'm elected, I'll continue to work Thursday and Friday, 4 in the morning until 8 in the morning. I'm not sure how many other people will be awake or want to access me at that time. If that doesn't mean I'm full-time, then I'm not full-time. I may also work on a Sunday morning from 4 in the morning until 10 in the morning. Same thing. I'm not sure how many people want to seek the mayor at those times. In case of emergency, you'll have my number. Larry Rake, who is currently the general manager at Walmart Distribution Center, supports my candidacy and said that he'll work with me and allow me to attend functions and wishes me well. Joanne had mentioned her staff, knowing where they are. I agree, I think that's a fantastic idea. You'll have my schedule as well. There's going to be important meetings that come up that I might not be able to publish, but I think it's very important that for public perception and a court of public opinion, people do know what's going on. Thank you.
This should be a quick answer to this question. I think we start with Tim. The question is, as the position of mayor has evolved into a full-time position, do you plan to resign from your current job to be mayor, or will the mayor's salary be a supplementary salary for your income?
I only have one job, being mayor.
The answer is, I will be a full-time mayor Monday through Friday.
Of a city this size is a full-time 24/7 job.
I think I answered this question pretty well, but I'd like to embellish a little bit. I'll establish office hours during the week, set office hours. If you want to schedule, great, you will need to. I'll schedule evening office hours, and they might be at the public library, they might be at other businesses, and I'll do that for a few reasons. One, let's get people to these other businesses. Let's encourage people to come downtown, and if it's to meet the mayor. I understand I wasn't here at the time, but the mayor's office used to be on Main Street. I think Gene Reppenhagen was the mayor that built it where it is today. I'm sure there were reasons behind it. But I think, again, if anything, the mayor needs to be available, like Judy said, at all times. However, I think the current salary, is that above the average that we have right now with the people? Perhaps. I think from my standpoint, I want to continue to build for my family, my children, and if I can work a few more hours in the wee early mornings to support my family and better ourselves, I'm going to do it.
Yes, I will be a full-time mayor. Yes, I will resign my current position. And yes, I will be the mayor 24/7.
All right, this is a two-part question. The first part is, do you support the revenue sharing plan that is being considered by the town of Johnstown and the city of Gloversville? And the second part of the question is, what are your feelings on consolidation of city and/or county departments? And Joanne, you're the first one with this one.
I'm glad I'm the first one with this one. First, the revenue sharing plan. I've already met with Roy Clementier and Jack Wilson to discuss the revenue sharing plan. And we've gone over some of the easy parts of it, some of the more difficult parts, and basically nothing's been worked out yet. But the town is very interested in our sewer and water. I am very interested in real property taxes and sales taxes. And I think that those four items need to be negotiated. Secondly, as far as consolidation, I firmly believe that somewhere in the future, the city of Gloversville, the city of Johnstown, and the town of Johnstown will be one political unit. And I think that's going to be the survival of the entire group. It's the only way to solve the issues of water and sewer. It's the only way to solve the issue of sales tax. It's the only way to solve the issues that involve real property tax base. Is that going to happen in the next 4 years if I'm elected? I doubt it. But I think that it is a goal. I think it is a reality, and it's something we need to really look at and say, yes, that's probably the way of the future, and it makes sense in terms of the taxpayers, and it is the best way to help ensure that our citizens get what they deserve in terms of what they pay for.
Yes, I do support shared revenue with other municipalities. We need to do this. Consolidation, everybody groans and they throw up their hands and they say it'll never happen. But I have to tell you, we cannot survive without sharing services with our other municipalities. We do have to look at consolidation down the road, and people can absolutely plant their feet and say, no, this is never going to happen. But our survival depends on it, as does Johnstown's and Mayfield and the towns. It's all going to have to come together.
I support the revenue sharing plan. I've seen a copy of it from one of the local supervisors, and I think there's definitely some areas where we need to do that. As both Joanne and Judy said, we supply the water and the sewer, and the town supplies the land. Once this Walmart Supercenter goes in on Hales Mills, I expect, and I'm sure most of you expect, other businesses to go in there as well. And while we'll receive the entire sales and property tax for that Walmart Supercenter, the rest of the businesses that go there will likely belong to the town. I'd like some of that revenue as well. I think we do need to be careful though, and some of you may remember in the late 80s when we got off preemption, we lost a lot of sales tax revenue. Our property taxes went up and the sales tax revenue were down. I want to make sure that we're not getting ourselves into a situation where basically something similar happens. I think we need to get together and have discussions. Again, these are discussions that need to be public, and people need to have information. It might be something that we have the citizens of our city and the town of Johnstown vote on, instead of having supervisors, councilmen deciding without your input. Thank you.
I agree with the revenue sharing agreement. You know, it has to be done. It has to get done. Again, as everyone said, it does have to be beneficial for the city of Gloversville and, you know, whoever else is, you know, sharing the revenue with us, whether it be, you know, the city or town of Johnstown. But, you know, it is something that we do need to do. As far as consolidation, it will happen sooner or later. I think you're seeing with the school districts already. You know, we're starting to see smaller school districts, 2, 3, you know, at a time start to merge. It's the only way it's going to survive. It's the only way you can save from taxes going up. Maybe the only way to just keep taxes on a level plane at this point. But, you know, consolidation will happen. I think, you know, we have to look at the options of, you know, shared services of things we can do now between the county, you know, between, you know, other towns, you know, and other cities, you know, with us as a city. You know, things that we can share, things that we can do that aren't necessarily consolidation, but shared services, you know, that, you know, save all of us a little money.
You know, consolidation is nothing new. It's happened through the country for quite some time now. California, the entire Orange County, I believe it is all one government. And vision down the road, hopefully Fulton County is like that. No more small little villages and everything else. And it'll happen. You know, the days of the little empires are over. But back to the revenue sharing, that's a start in that direction. It's monumental where 2 municipalities, possibly 3, can get together and put their differences aside. That's the relationship we have right now with the town of Johnstown. 4 years ago, I would have never thought that would ever happen, but it is. It's changing.
The next question will be given to Judy. And there has been a great deal of criticism concerning the city of Gloversville, specifically leaf pickup, snow removal, poor conditions of the streets, blight, and others. What would you do to make improvements in these areas? Judy?
Well, firstly, with the streets, I would work closely with DPW to ensure the streets are maintained according to traffic needs, not according to schedules or the desire to pander to any group or individual. The leaf pickup, that is something that I am really not sure how that even got started. When I was a kid, of course, we raked leaves into the gutter and set them on fire. This is what we did. The leaf pickup, I don't wait for the city to come and pick up my leaves. I bag them and I schlep them down to Beaver Street. And I know maybe we're just spoiled. Leaf pickup, to me, everybody can do their own leaves of this. It's good exercise. They get you out in the fresh air. And again, I wish that we could rake them in the gutter and set them on fire. But we can't do that anymore. Unfortunately, I love the smell of burning leaves. There I am. What can I tell you? So, and as for, you know, the conditions of the streets, as I said, we need to do it, throw away the schedules and do it according to traffic needs. Do the worst streets first. We also have to prepare the streets better, and I will work with DPW to implement whatever program they need to implement to do preventive maintenance before the winter starts. And plowing is another major complaint. My major complaint with the plowing is they don't plow to the curb. I live on a very narrow street as it is, and they're plowing like 3 feet away from the curb. And I did speak to Mr. Abel about the plowing, and he said, well, he said, the wingman is learning how to judge the distance. And I said to him, you can stick your head out the truck window and see how far away you are from the curb. What do you mean you're training the wingman? That didn't make sense to me either. Sorry.
I spoke to Mr. Abel as well, and I think it's very important for people to remember that at one time, DPW had over 60 employees there, and I think we're down to under 30. I may be a little off, but I think that's pretty close. Mr. Abel said he'd like to purchase some new vehicles, he'd like to add a few staff. I'm not sure if that'll happen with the current situation we're in. And I think there's several things we can do to create efficiency, though. What we need to do is define, measure, analyze, improve, and then control. We need to find out what's important, what are we doing, how are we doing, what's wrong, what needs to be done, and then how can we guarantee we're going to keep up this performance. I think specifically at DPW, are there wasted transportation routes? Are we currently going about the garbage in the best possible way so that we're not going over the same place twice? And the same thing when we're plowing roads and doing leaf pickup. I think we need to find out, do we need all the inventory currently, or do we wait until the last minute to get something? Some of you might remember, and Mr. Hughes might recall this, during a snowstorm, they didn't have a part for one of the particular trucks. Mr. Abel needed this piece, and there was only one left, and it was in Russia. So, again, there's going to be times where we don't have everything we need, but I think we need to be as prepared as possible. The other things that we need to find out is, are we creating defective products? Currently, and some of you again know this, we create the signs for the city. Are we doing them right the first time? Because if we're not, are we going to have the time and energy and money to do them again? Thank you.
We could just cut down all the trees too. That would solve that. Anyway, DPW, I agree. DPW, one of the main factors of DPW is manpower. Fire has their contract by charter, minimum staffing. Police has minimum staffing by charter. DPW doesn't. Unfortunately, they tend to be, sometimes in the city, the bad stepchild. And whose budget gets cut? DPW. So, I think, for the manpower they have and what they are doing, I think they're actually doing a pretty good job with what they have to work with. I think one thing, as Dayton said, we can go back and we can look at efficiencies. We can look at different ways of, doing things as far as plowing goes, as far as scheduling goes, and, things that we can work on, from an efficiency standpoint. That doesn't replace manpower, that just makes the manpower more efficient. And, as far as leaf pickup, I take my own leaves away myself. But, I've seen it over the last few years, it's been getting later and later, and sometimes, it's in the snow by the time it's that late. But, again, all we can do is go in, and look, analyze, and see how we can do it better with what we have to work with.
I do agree that the leaf pickup is probably, it's a tough one. People have become accustomed to that over the years. And every year, we try to find easier and easier ways to do it, cheaper ways. Unfortunately, the whole department is cut back. It costs money. Your plowing is always done on overtime. Now it's done on straight time. Is it perfect? Not by any means. Same with your blight control. An ever-changing world and an ever-changing procedure possibly needs a code enforcement department to follow up on some of these things. Fixing the streets, again, are they perfect? Absolutely not. I guess realistically, it all comes down to money. They do what they can do. They had 60 people in that department at one time. They're down to 28 with no money to put more on.
I don't remember there having 60, but I know they had about 40. What I'm looking at is that the criticism, I'd like to start with the streets first. And there I believe we need to have a capital plan. It is something we started again back when I was Commissioner of Finance, but was not completed, and I believe just fell by the wayside after the Hammond administration left. With a capital plan, what I'm looking at is we're going to take and we're going to redo a section, a street, 2 blocks, 3 blocks. Within that plan, we coordinate with National Grid, Frontier, Water Department, Sewer. We're going to dig this road up. We're going to lay all of those lines. We're going to check all of the connections. Then we're going to pave the road. That way, 2 weeks after we pave it, we don't have to dig it up because we have a water line break or a sewer break or there's something wrong. IMO's there digging up as they are now all over the city. It's a coordinated plan so that once you do, if you're going to do a stretch, you do it right the first time. And you reduce the number of times you get all of these ridges. No matter how you patch a street, it's patched. That's number one. The other, in terms of leaf removal, I remember when we had elm trees everywhere in the city. If you think the leaves are a problem now, you should have been there when Judy and I were kids. We parted them, yes we did, but there were a lot more leaves. Fall is a rainy season. And if you're holding Public Works responsible for the rain and they can't get around to pick leaves up timely, I've also seen people put the leaves out after they've gone by. My husband and I, we rake our leaves, we throw them in his pickup truck, and we take them down to the brush heap. Christmas trees. You know, it's interesting. Mr. Abel made the comment. We all seem to be able to get a Christmas tree to our home in time for Christmas, but we never seem to be able to get it to the brush dump after Christmas. Isn't that interesting? We expect the city to come along and pick that up. With garbage pickup, I remember when we picked up garbage twice a week. And I remember when we went to once a week, we were sure there were going to be rats overrunning the entire city. Hasn't happened. I do think that we need to examine our priorities and provide better utilization, and we're going to have to decide what services are absolutely necessary. Do we need to continue picking up Christmas trees? Are those people who found a way to bring them home? We're going to have to find a way to get them to dump. I shouldn't say that. Landfill? Beaver Street. Okay. In terms of snow removal, you know we have an aging fleet out there. At one time, we would buy, these major trucks last a long time, or tend to, but they do need maintenance. But when you've got a truck that's 30 years old, it's getting difficult to find parts. Again, if we go to capital planning like Fulton County does, they have a plan for buying replacement equipment. You buy so many a year. They look at what their funding is, they establish the priorities, they make the purchases. Unfortunately, we haven't done that, and we need to. We need to start planning those things. And it's going to take some time, and it's going to depend on our budget and what we're able to afford. But it's only through planning, and it's meeting the council, meeting with Public Works, meeting with police and fire to establish what are our needs, what are our priorities. And the biggest problem we have is that we have a junk bond rating. So if we come up with a magnificent capital plan and we want to borrow the money to put it into place, we're dealing with a junk bond rating.
The next question deals with the youth of the city of Gloversville, and there are two parts of this question. What programs do you wish to implement concerning youth programs in the city of Gloversville? And attached to that question is, how do you envision the role of the city in coordinating programs with the Gloversville School District and other local groups such as the YMCA or YWCA? And Dayton, this one's for you.
At the forefront of my campaign is recreation, and I think it's not only for, like I said earlier, senior center, the seniors here, or the youth, it's for all of us. I can remember growing up in Northville, we didn't have anything to do at all. We'd come down to Gloversville for something to do. And now that I live in Gloversville, sometimes I drive to Saratoga or Albany for something to do. I think we need to establish something here for all of us. And I think we need to bring back the Rec Commission. We need to fund the Rec Commission. And we need to make a provision that when the money that wasn't spent for a specific item, such as resurfacing the tennis courts, we only use $1,000 out of a $2,000 or $3,000 budget, that money doesn't go back to the general fund. That stays within the Rec Commission. I think organizations such as the Little Huskies, Little League Baseball, Fulton United Soccer, Boys and Girls Club, there's several that provide similar services, but differently. If we're going to do soccer and baseball and football, obviously they're different entities. However, it's generally the same people coordinating that. I think if the city can get involved and have a Rec Commission to assist those people, we'll be much better off. We can utilize, right now Fulton United Soccer has an $8,000 lawnmower, and because the city owns half of Darling Field, I think we've had to use that once. So what we need to do and be better at is getting a hold of other organizations to say, hey, keep it filled with gas and you can use it, or give us $50 or $100 and use it when you need to. And again, I think we all need to step up and say, yes, my children are involved, my grandparents, my father or mother are involved in the senior center, and I want to contribute, I want to help out. If it's not financially, we need volunteers. One of my ideas, quickly, and I'll pass it along to Dirk, is the rail trail right now is, I believe Mr. Abel told me, cleaned by one college student on a pretty much part-time basis. I think that student or that worker can be utilized in other ways, and organizations, like I mentioned earlier, can adopt part of the rail trail. We have that now on Route 30. I'd be happy to talk to the board of directors of Fulton United Soccer and get a commitment as early as tomorrow to do something like that. Thank you.
I think youth programs are very important to the city. If we're going to attract quality families to the area and attract, not only that, but businesses that want to come here, that they have to have employees that have to be employed here, they look at things like that. When a business relocates, they look at what programs there are for their employees and their staff. We've made some strides in the last few years with the Boys and Girls Club. I think Dave Gibson did a good job, getting that started. But we still, lack in a lot of areas. We don't have a pool. We don't really have any tennis courts. We don't have a skate park. As an example, last night I was driving through the city, and it was relatively early. It was around 8 o'clock. I must have dodged groups of kids, groups of 4 or 5, at least a dozen within a 6-block area, which just shows that there's really no place for them to go, nothing for them to do within the city. That has to change. I think the role of the city, I agree, we have to have a recreation department. We have to, design and work and implement programs that the city can afford and partner with other groups, with soccer, football, baseball, Boys and Girls Club, and anybody else that we can partner with in order to, to find things, for the kids to do. But I think it's, the recreation programs and the youth programs in the city are just as important as the senior programs, and just as important to the quality of life in the city as the parks and anything else.
Around the country and some of the different places I've been, a lot of your municipalities, they ask you how much you get for recreation, through grants and various things. We don't get anything. What we need is a recreation director. My personal opinion, I believe we need to put the senior center and the recreation all under one umbrella. Once you have a rec commission, we've been there, we've done that. At one point, we've had 4 or 5 people, and then within a month or two, you have 2, or you have 1. In today's day and age, it's very difficult for people to make that commitment, and it's very rare that they will. What I think down the road is we really need to look at a separate program for the seniors and the youth.
Okay, according to the charter, recreation is for both adults and senior citizens in this city. And that's what the Recreation Commission is supposed to be doing. It's very difficult when you have no money. As far as implementing youth programs, we can go back to my childhood when we had a summer playground program. We had a huge pool over at Latour. When you went and looked, Latour pool was always busy. As long as it wasn't raining, there were no thunderstorms, there were kids in the pool all summer. The playground programs had children, but not as many. And we went through a period of time where the attendance was dwindling. We also went through a period of time where you had more state regulation. For instance, your playground supervisors had to have CPR, they had to have first aid. And you went through a period of time where parents no longer took responsibility for their children. They wanted them to come over to the schools, to the playgrounds, and then if they were injured there, they sued the city. I think that we need to change the way parents regard the city as daycare workers. If we're going to offer recreation, which I believe we should, parents need to be an active part of that and need to be actively involved. The city cannot afford to pay for one-on-one supervision of children. And you know that when you take care of your own children, if you've got 4 like Dirk has, and 3 grandchildren, that's a handful. And when you expect summer college kids to do that, it's a great deal. And the insurance for running those programs is also high. I think the Boys and Girls Club has been a wonderful addition. I wish we could find them a permanent home. I read in the paper that someone suggested that we use the YMCA over on Fulton Street, that YMCA could be used for a senior citizen, in replacing the building where the seniors are struggling with their mortgage. If the city owned the YM, that they could have senior citizen facilities there. The Boys and Girls Club could be there. Any organization that would like meeting space could be there. It's an idea tossed out there, not from me, but from members of the community. As far as pools, I really need for you to think about, should the city operate a pool? Because the YMCA does have a beautiful pool. The Jewish Community Center has a great pool. The middle school has a great pool. And the nice thing about those 3 pools is they're not limited to the summer only. They're not subject to the winters here and the freezing and the damage that can happen in those pools. Maybe the pool is not something we need because we have these other facilities, but we need to support those programs that offer those pools. We need to take advantage of them and perhaps work with the school, with the Jewish Community Center, with the YMCA, and making those facilities available. We have parks, we have basketball courts, we have playgrounds. And we have issues with older children who are vandalizing those facilities. And again, that goes to, can we have a policeman on every corner, at every park, at every playground? We can't afford that. I do think we can have a structured recreation program, but it needs to be very carefully structured and in conjunction with those agencies that offer recreational activities.
Recreation is a quality of life issue. We have, as Joanne mentioned, several recreation venues, ball fields, basketball courts, playgrounds, the rail trail, parks. We do need a recreation committee or commission, appoint interested and dedicated people to implement programs for our youth. money is the primary stumbling block. I understand the Litauer Foundation contributes to recreation, and I believe there was a sum of $25,000 because I was at a council meeting a few weeks ago, and they were bickering about where it should be spent. The summer rec program for the children of Gloversville that bused them out to the new YMCA, I feel, was a waste of money. We could have gone with the Gloversville School District for the pool program. The Jewish Community Center has a lovely pool. We do have pools within the city. We do not need to bus our children and our tax dollars out of the city. But we do need a recreation program, and I would like to see some type of recreation program or commission implemented.
These goals.
I guess that's an all-encompassing question there. In 5 years, I would hope that we still have a balanced budget, that we make strides towards revenue sharing, that, things, we've done have, towards revenue have, improved our financial situation, that we do have a capital plan, and we are planning year to year, to replace items, infrastructure, and equipment, that downtown is full again, and the economy downtown is much better. There's no crystal ball. We don't know I couldn't tell you what's going to happen, next year. It's not always dependent just upon us. It's dependent upon what happens in the county, what happens in the state, what happens in the country. We all know where we're at, as far as the whole national picture goes. Debt is just getting larger and larger. But hopefully, and for myself, I would hope that the quality of the neighborhoods, that we've eliminated a lot of the blight in the neighborhoods, that we've had better families move in, that our property values are up, that because of that, we have some new housing, and our tax base is in a much better shape. I absolutely believe, if I was elected mayor, when I leave office, that I left the city in a much better situation than I took office. I think that's the goal. That's where we want to go. And that's what I'm committed to in the long haul. And in the long haul, everyone talks, I don't want to be here for 4 years. I want to be here for 8 years. I want to be here for 12 years. I want to see the plan through. I'm at an age where I can do that. I can be here, as long as it needs to, to get the job done. And if elected mayor, that's what it's all about. Getting the job done and working for the people. Mayor doesn't work for city council. The mayor doesn't work for this. The mayor works for you. That's who he works for. That's who I would work for. I work for you. I answer to you. I work for you. You pay my paycheck. Same as we're in my position that I have right now. My company doesn't pay me. They never have. My customers pay me. If I don't have any customers, I don't get a check. My employees don't get a check. And that's basically the way that you have to look at it. Thank you.
Well, hopefully 5 years from now, we're all still here. We're all still part of Gloversville. But to get there, you got to do a lot of things. And hopefully we can get them done. And I think the biggest, most important thing that we need to get done is we're not down the road with this revenue sharing. It's going to be very important. Sales tax adds up a lot faster than property tax. Through these special districts that we've kicked around with the revenue sharing in the town, they'll be basically for retail growth. And it's going to be important. It isn't going to be in the city, but when you get something for doing very little, that's a huge step. You also need to have quality housing in the city. And with the grace of God and a little luck, we can get there. We need to update our codes, our blight department, code enforcement, make it an actual money-making department. When people know when they have a blight situation at their house, they really don't need to be told. Maybe some of the absentee landlords do. But if we had a department without all the paperwork going to court, where you actually had an appearance ticket or a fine associated with that ticket, no more going to court for 2 months. Here's your ticket, you owe us money. I'll guarantee you people would step up to the plate. And that's where we need to be. We need to get our finances under control. And the bottom line, we need to consolidate services wherever we can.
All right, what would I like to see? That gives me a visual impression. Downtown, now that the chamber has a facade grant, I would like to see a different downtown. One where this money has been applied to make our downtown extremely attractive. I would like to see apartments on the second and third floor of all the buildings that are here. I would like to see this theater with permanent seating. I would like some of this mold removed that's irritating my asthma tonight. I would like to see right-sizing the city. Right-sizing means that when the county forecloses on houses, when houses become property of the city or county, that we no longer look, can we rehab this house? If this house is so far down the line, let's bring it down. When your population has gone from 22,000 down to less than 16, your housing should be coming down. That's part of the reason we have so much blight. We have excess housing. We have some houses that are 100 years old are in marvelous condition. Other houses that are only 50 years old are in terrible condition. We need to do a true assessment of the housing, and when we take possession, we need to bring them down. If you take one blighted house in your neighborhood and you remove it, has the value of your property increased? Generally, the answer is going to be yes, if you've taken a blighted house out. I would like to see the affordable housing grant used to put in new homes. And I know that we have someone who's interested in developing property up on Bleecker and the corner of Bleecker and West State Street. Wouldn't that be great to put 10 affordable houses up there? And at the same time package that with making the repairs to Lee Avenue, where those people have water problems in their cellars, because that's a drained swamp. When they put that in there, they drained that land to build those houses. Package it. Correct the problems on Lee Avenue. Put in homes that neighborhood finds acceptable. Let's take a look over where the Reisdorf Tannery used to be. I'd like to see those ponds along there cleaned up. That entire hill, there's over 100 acres available behind there with owners interested in having them developed. Wouldn't that be great to see housing over there? We still have land within the city that we can develop, but we need to work with developers and the people who own those properties to do that. I would like to see the other parks modeled after the work that's been done by the Friends of Myers Park. If you were there Saturday, you saw a beautiful change, a transformation in that park, and I would like to see our parks like that. I certainly think I would like to see Walmart come in, because we could certainly use the sales and property taxes that it will have. I think that's my list, my wish list, what I'd like to see, and what I would be working for over the next 4 years.
Joanne covered my wish list. But I would like to see a thriving, bustling downtown. I would like to see some of our mini parks with better equipment for the children. I would like to see our buses crowded with people going back and forth to work. I would like to see the Walmart project completed, because that will certainly boost our tax revenue. completed, and remembering it when I was a teenager and spent countless hours here. There are many projects that have already been started here. The farmers market, what a wonderful thing that is, the co-op. We are making progress, and in 5 years, I think our progress efforts will have indulged.
If I'm elected in 5 years, I think we'll see a very different city, and I think it really starts with holding people accountable. None of us have brought it up tonight, and very often we say it to our close friends and family, and it's taboo almost to come out and say it, but I'll admit it here tonight that some of the reasons people don't come downtown is because of the people that are currently downtown. There's currently people that are downtown that aren't shopping. They're not coming down to socialize. They're coming down to loiter and litter and look for handouts. And I think we can do a better job. Our police force currently are understaffed. The town of Johnstown doesn't have the same problems that we do, perhaps because their staffing is at a higher rate per thousand. I think we're at about 2 police officers per thousand, and they're at about 3 officers per thousand. But again, our budget's tight, so I think we need to look at opportunities where we can have key locations and key times where officers are going to be to hold people accountable. One of the ways that we can prevent crimes and bullying and selling drugs for children is after school. September 9th, school starts back up. I'm sure you all are aware. I've talked to people on South McNabb, talked to people on Spring Street. One of the things they mention is they rarely see an officer over there after school. They see kids getting bullied, they see kids getting beaten up, they see kids selling drugs. I think if an officer is outside in those key locations, they're going to deter a lot of that. They're going to make children feel more comfortable. The police themselves are going to feel more comfortable. The other things I hope to see in 5 years, and I'm confident if I'm elected you will see, is more businesses here. We're very fortunate right now that King Teleservices chose Gloversville to come here, and one of the reasons was the Frontier building. I think the revenue sharing is very important. We do need to discuss that. I don't want to see us cut off our arm to save our body, however. I think we need to make sure that what we're doing is the right choice, and we need to continue to have talks. I agree that there is land here that's usable. One of the pieces of land I mentioned on the top of the town, I believe, and perhaps a public access show as well, is by our transit system. There's about 5 or 6 acres right there that could possibly be turned into a village center. We can bike, we can rollerblade, we can walk right from the rail trail and use that area as a village center. It has to happen downtown. We have to grow from here. This location, the Glove Theater, I wasn't around when it was thriving. I know I've talked to Mr. Samroff, his wife. He showed me through his museum. He showed me his uniform when he was here in the 50s and how it was a bustling neighborhood. Many of you remember the glove tanneries that were here and all the leather mills. That's not coming back. We're not going to be a huge manufacturing company in our city again. However, we will attract businesses by getting out there. And if I'm elected mayor, I'll be an ambassador, like I said earlier, and talk to the senators. We're going to update our website. We're going to motivate people that this is a good city, and we're going to make it a great city. Thank you.
We'll conclude with each candidate getting up to 2 minutes to make closing remarks, and I'll have them come up to the podium because they're probably getting tired from sitting. And the first one is Dayton King.
I'd like to thank you all for remaining relatively still. I was fidgeting a little bit tonight, so I thank you. I'm going to repeat myself a little bit, but I think it's really important to get this message across that Gloversville deserves a leader who's going to listen to people, who's going to be out there, who's going to listen to people's ideas and share them with each other. We can't keep things close to our pockets. I spoke to the mayor very briefly in his 4 years and just very recently got involved in politics. And one of the things that you may not know is there's a bunch of projects lined up. We need to share that with the community. We need to get out there at everyone's door. The people that don't read Kaylee's columns or Mr. McGuire's or listen to the radio, knock on doors. Hi, I'm Dayton King, I'm your mayor. What do you think about the wood boiler next to Rite Aid? Is that a good idea for your city? I think great cities don't just happen. They're a result of dedicated citizens and public officials who care about their hometowns, and who are willing to shake things up and make places a better environment to work, live, and play. None of the 5 of us here tonight are going to do that independently. We're going to collaborate with the council people, Ms. Wentworth, Ms. Nadio here tonight. I'm not sure if I've seen any others. We're going to work together as a team. And we have to all get out there and work hard. And that's what I'll expect from you. It can't be a one-way street. It can't be, what is my mayor doing for me? And I don't want to steal this from JFK, so you know the rest of it. But we need to work together. Have a great night. Thank you for coming.
Our next presenter will be Judy Marco.
I want to thank you all for coming. You've been a great and attentive audience. My goal is to provide the city with the best possible services and a city government that respects its citizens and taxpayers. As I said in the beginning, Gloversville is a wonderful city. I chose to retire here. My grandchildren are being raised here. I love the city. I drive all over the city, and I have such wonderful memories. And of course, Gloversville will never be what it used to be. We all know that, and we all realize that. But it can be better. But it's going to take a lot of teamwork and the input of many citizens so that we can thrive and move on. Thank you.
Next, we have Tim Hughes.
You know, everybody, all the candidates here tonight have a lot of good ideas. You know, it's too bad we can't put them all together. Have 5 little mayors, I guess. Going down the road, like I said to start with, the city has a ton of problems. Some big, some small, some look huge. It does require teamwork. It requires people to get involved, which is not easy to do. People don't even like to run for office. This is unusual. But I think that every stone that can be turned over needs to be in the next 5 years. The city's at a very delicate point right now. The economy's on the downturn, but we have opportunities. And there's no one thing. There's no, Walmart isn't going to save us. That's going to be a Band-Aid that may last 2 years. It's going to take a combination of a lot of things. Prime example is this new business at Frontier, created 1,200 jobs. That's definitely going to improve downtown. When you put those numbers in a downtown this size, what do they require? They got to eat someplace. They have to buy things, and it can only help us. In the same hand, we need new houses, or quality housing. Unfortunately, the city was set up for between 25 and 27,000 people. Your services are geared for that. Your police, your fire, everything but DPW. So at this point, when you take a house down, you either got to put something up of equal value, or what did you do to yourself? You're taking a step back. Well, I could go on and on forever, but I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Thank you.
I too would like to thank everybody for coming tonight. We all have our own vision. In November, there will only be 3 or 4 of us left on the island, so to speak. Some of us are going to be leaving. But what I see, what you're going to have to decide then is the commitment. Is the person that has the commitment, the person that wants to change Gloversville, the person that sees the future, and the person that can help you in the future and work with you. I believe one of our biggest problems in Gloversville is our social infrastructure, so to speak. We have a problem, and that needs to be fixed. Right now, as far as housing goes, owner-occupied housing, 40%. Rental properties, somewhere in the 30s. Vacant properties, believe it or not, in the city, about 10 to 12%. Figure that on 6,000 housing units, you tell me how many vacant houses and empty houses we have. The social infrastructure just breeds between itself, and that's what has to be fixed. We have to create a better, city between all of us, and we have to all work together, to achieve those goals. We do have budget problems. We do have infrastructure problems. We can work on those and we can fix those. I ran because I have the commitment to run. I don't have to worry about my skill set. I don't have to worry about my education. I have those, otherwise I wouldn't have done what I did. I can balance the budget with the best of them. I've been writing budgets and managing budgets in excess of $3 to $15 million for 25 years. Every year for the last 25 years. I've managed up to 200 people at a time, multiple units. That's not really the question. The question is the person that's going to have the commitment and the person that's going to make this city a better place. And I thank you all for coming tonight.
The last closing statement will be by Joanne Clear.
I get to get up and exercise. You still have to sit. Okay, short. I'm an accountant. I know that being mayor is more than crunching numbers. It's about being a professional, having a working knowledge of the city, of civil service law, of employment contracts, the charter, and it's about having the community commitment to move the city forward. It's about a leadership style that will unite rather than divide. And most of all, it's about the people the mayor and the council serve. It's about a commitment to provide necessary services at a cost that does not cripple the city and threaten its future. It's working together with neighboring communities and working towards solutions. Thank you for coming.
Thank you all. That concludes our mayoral forum for tonight. But before we end, I would like to thank and commend all the mayoral candidates. They did an excellent job. I'd also like to thank John Major for graciously accepting the role of moderator tonight. Let me check the clock. You did it. That's 7 minutes to spare, John. You're incredible. I'd also like to thank the members of the 2020 group, specifically Christy, Lori, and Barbara. Thank you. Good job. And lastly, I'd like to thank the public for their questions. There was a diverse topic of questions that were all important. And I believe this forum was a success. And I thank everyone again for attending. And good night. Thank you.